The Renegade Son, which is the second book in the YA fantasy series by my co-writer Casey Lonan and me, was published November 23rd, 2018, just 6 months after the release of our first book. And let me just say, I loved working on this book so much. So many writers will say that working on the sequel is harder than working on the first book, but for me, like, that just really wasn't true. It wasn't the case for Casey either. Like, when we were talking about it, like, this is so much better than book one. This is so much easier to do. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna share what I think helped this book be much more manageable than the first book. So hopefully you too can have a blast with the sequel that you might write someday, or maybe you're writing it right now, today. Yes, very good. All right, the first thing that I think helped was that this is a small book comparatively. The debut novel for this series covered a lot. I mean, it was like basically covering 17 years plus a few days. I mean, and it also has like, 383 pages in length, like after edits that we did to improve pacing. So like, it was longer than that for whenever we were first publishing it. And The Renegade Son, which is the sequel, is only 345 pages, which is still like 40 pages shorter. And yeah, so like, plus The Renegade Son, it only tracks the events of like 2 days. 2 jam-packed action-filled days, but just still 2 days. That is a lot easier to manage than 17 years with change. Second thing I think that helped was that, like, we were able to use what we learned, and we used planning to help. I mean, we planned book one, but like, that was our first time, you know? Writing book one was a challenge in that it was the very first time we co-wrote a book together, and we were just figuring this thing out, and we were able to use what worked and didn't work for book one to help write this book with fewer headaches and just overall more efficiency. We also used backwards planning to help figure out with the drafting and publication milestones, getting together one afternoon to just really hash it out and just be 100% on the same page with all the planning. We didn't have a major planning session like this for book one that I can recall. So yeah, it definitely helped this time with book two. And also, since we had done this before, like, we could also do the backwards planning realistically. Like, you know, like I mentioned in the very first video of this series, which is about, you know, writing the series, use what you did in the past, keep track of it to help plan for the future. The third thing I think that helped was we had ARC readers. ARC stands for Advanced Review Copy. They are given to readers who, in exchange, will generally rate and review your work. Like fools, we didn't do ARCs for The Changeling's Fortune, but we did for this second book. We bundled the first 2 books together, actually, into a single, like, ARC bundle after the release of The Renegade Son, and we sent them to be distributed by ARC companies, and in return, we got a lot of pretty nice reviews for the first quarter of 2019, so that was, like, kind of some awesome positive feedback. So, like, okay, I guess that's technically post-publication, but it was nice, you know. I definitely think that doesn't hurt. The fourth thing that I think that helped was rebranding. Like I said in the last video, books have covers to judge them, and having a professional cover is really preferable. So originally we were going to have each book have a main character on it, you know, with art, but that really wasn't the trend at the time. I don't know if it's even the trend now. Like, I think the biggest trend now is just girls in dresses. Like, I blame the selection theories. But anyways, the trend for YA fantasy stories was, like, really magical font, fancy objects, fairy lights, things like that. So we got book one cover redone, and the new book cover for book two had all those, you know, different things. And honestly, I really like this book cover. I think the axe that they found to use on the cover is boss. I like its design very much. Also, the color palette's really good. Anyways, so I think that there were 2 biggest takeaways from this publication process in regards to co-writing and in regards to just publishing in general. The takeaway in regards to co-writing was that we began to use a method that we dubbed the belief method. We realized that Deirdre and Ian's character arcs just needed to be, like, interwoven in this story. So, like, as their trust or lack thereof in each other was just a big aspect of both, like, the plot and their character development in this book. So, like, we created a system, looked at what do the characters believe at the start of the book? What scene show this belief? What do we want the character to believe at the end of the book? What scenes in the book show the characters beginning to change their views? And what scene or scenes near the end demonstrates those new beliefs. So like, yeah. And this is probably like something I think that will work well, or we have found that it has worked well for both negative and positive character arcs. We've used it for both over the course of writing the series. It's been a big help. And because it's all laid out very like methodical, you know, what do they believe, which scenes, what should believe, you know, which scenes, you know, and we have it all in like a shared document. Like we can see what the other person is doing. We can see where the scenes should overlap, you know. Yeah, it works pretty well. And the biggest takeaway in regards to publishing in general is that it's never too late. We were both discouraged by the, you know, normal, I mean, let's be honest, the release of book 1 was pretty normal for indie publishing release for people who don't really know what they're doing with promotions. Like, it was a normal release, but for us, we were pretty upset because we had unrealistic expectations. But with the arcs and rebranding the first 2 books, you know, things were looking better, and it really reignited our passion for the series and showed us that we don't need a perfect debut to start to, you know, get an audience. So book 2 was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I still enjoy reading it a lot because I find it's very snappy. I mentioned a lot in the video on book 1 about how the pacing wasn't that fast, but I think that changed a lot starting with this book. The pacing's much nicer, but we still give it room to breathe because we're still setting up the world and establishing the characters. So we introduced a new character, Alvi, whom I love. She is like, if you took Nonali from Code Geass and then just merged her with this lumpy space princess from Adventure Time from like, you know, the first couple of seasons whenever she was like really funny, in my opinion. I enjoyed her in those first couple of seasons. So yeah, I love writing Alvi. I think that was another part of it, is that I was just writing Deirdre in book 1, but this time I was writing Deirdre in Alvi. The next video will be about publishing and writing the 3rd book in the series, which I think is my personal favorite. So I hope you look forward to that. I am very excited for that video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye!